Hey up everybody, welcome back to the I'll Do Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at the Velogames Spain, the last Grand Tour of the year. It's a bit sad to think that it's the last one, but it's also a fantastic opportunity for us to pick up loads of points, especially if you're far up in the Stage Race Championship, which I know a lot of you are. So let's take a look at the rider pricings and let's see who is going to be some good selections for us all to be making to try and win this Velogames Spain. In the all-rounder category, we've got Primoz Roglic at 24 credits. Obviously, he is the big favourite for the race. He did crash out of the Tour de France, and I've seen pictures recently that he is still getting treatment for that vertebrae injury that he got. So I see Roglic as the big favourite for this race. If he was in absolutely tip-top condition and he had no problems going into this, but he's got this injury. He is a bit crash prone, and therefore there are some question marks as to whether he is going to be a good pick for your team. Roglic is a very good time trialist. He is a very good climber. He is Mr. Vuelta España at the end of the day. He's won this race many, many times. And therefore Roglic is a good choice if you think that he is recovered from his crash and that hopefully he won't also crash in this edition of the race. So Roglic, he's good, but he comes with some caveats for sure. Then you got the two UE Team Emirates guys of Joao Almeida and Adam Yates. I think both of these guys are good choices. For me, I would slightly favour Almeida. I would even say that maybe Almeida could have been 22 credits, but I think that 20 credits is definitely quite good value, just because Almeida has a better time trial, so therefore the two time trials which bookend this race, Almeida's just more likely to pick up those extra points there, and also if he's further up in the TT at the end of stage one, he's going to get those GC points going forwards as well. So I think that Almeida for me is slightly better than Adam Yates, but the steeper terrain and a lot of these climbs have some extended periods of 13%. I think that suits Yates more than Almeida does. So they both have their pros and cons, where they are coming in as co-leaders, so it's going to be interesting to see how they end up playing this out. If one of them whoever gets ahead in GC, I expect will be the one who leads, which is why I like Almeida, because if he starts leading after the time trial, then surely they might de facto to him, but that's just my logic on the matter. The 14 credit riders, you've got Martinez and Carlos Rodriguez. Dani Martinez was second in the Giro d'Italia. Carlos Rodriguez was 7th, I want to say, at the recent Tour de France. I think that both of these guys, at 14 credits, you need to be a top 5 candidate for this race. That's basically where the pricing works, is that you need to be about there. Do I see these guys as top 5 candidates? I don't think so. Just because Rodriguez was 7th in the Tour, and I think that if that's roughly where he's going to finish again. And Dani Martinez, honestly, it depends how the situation works with Roglic. Is Martinez here as a co-leader? Is he here just as a domestique? That has a big inclination as to what I think as to how Dani Martinez is going to do. I haven't seen anything, so that's why I'm a little bit cautious to really kind of pin my name next to what I think is going to happen. But in theory, if Dani Martinez has some decent freedom, he could be a top 5 candidate for this race. And I would say that he's a better choice than Carlos Rodriguez. The only 12 credit rider is Matthias Gomez Jensen in this category. This is the first time where he's really going at it with GC aspirations, but he has had a fantastic year in a lot of stage races, and I think that he is a really good choice for teams because he is such an exciting rider. He's a great time trialist, he's very punchy, and I think that he's going to be contesting a lot of stages. So I think Gomez Jensen is a great choice. I think a Rensman also is a very good choice, based upon the fact that he was good in the Giro, and he was like 12 credits there, and he's 10 credits here. So I think that Rensman is very much worthwhile. His time trialing's good. Although he didn't look very good at the Vuelta Burgos GC-wise, I'm not massively concerned by that, because before the Giro d'Italia, his warm-up race was the Tour of Romandy, and he didn't do well in that race, but then he ended up doing well in the Giro. So I think a Rensman doesn't need to do well in his build-up race to ultimately do well in the Grand Tour. So I think a Rensman is a great choice. Teo has had too many problems to really be worthwhile picking. And then you got McNulty, Tiberi and Jay Vine, all of whom are good time trialists, all of whom could contest GC. They could maybe top 10. Obviously, I realise people have problems with Tiberi because he shot a cat, but he was 14 credits in the Giro, and now he's 10 credits. And he was very much worth it in that race, so he's probably going to be worth it here. But ever since that Giro d'Italia, he's been a little bit off. Like, just the performances haven't been the same. He will do good in the TTs, but I do have a little bit of a trepidation about his climbing performances. I think that McNulty and Vine, for me, I would go with McNulty. I think both of these guys should be getting in breakaways rather than going for GC. They can both do a good time trial, so I think these are some of the most exciting riders, is those UE Team Emirates riders who aren't the pure GC contenders, because surely they're just going to get in breakaways quite a lot. So I think that McNulty and Vine are both good choices. So really there's quite a lot of good value in this 10 credit bracket, and I reckon you could really pick most of them other than Teo, and you'll probably be just fine. And then looking a little bit further down, Vlasov, to me, I see that he is behind Martinez and Roglic in terms of kind of favourite status, so I wouldn't be picking Vlasov, especially when you got better options in the same category. 8 credits, you got Caruso and Soler. Caruso hasn't looked good this year, personally. I would be avoiding picking him. Soler usually goes well in the Vuelta. It just happens. He does really well here, and he's usually 8 credits, and he's usually not very well selected. So maybe this is going to be the year where we rectify that and Soler gets picked a bit more. And then you got the 6 credits where Laurens de Plus is the best one, just based upon his decent GC in the Tour de France, good in the Dauphiné, and I think that de Plus should have some decent freedom from the Ineos Grenadiers, given that they don't have like some massive favourites in GC, so they should have some decent freedom. Looking at the climbers now, you got last year's winner in Sepp Kuss, who has doubled in price. Yes, doubled. He was 10 credits last year. For me, I won't be picking him at 20 credits. I haven't seen enough of him this year. He won that one stage in Burgos and won the GC, but I just can't. Like, Ivan Sosa has won the Vuelta Burgos, and I'm not picking him, am I? So Sepp for 20, he needs to be at 20 credits, on the podium of this race, and he's not going to be allowed in the breakaways anymore. So I'm not really sure about Sepp. Enric Mas, he usually goes well in the Vuelta, which is why his price is a little bit higher. George has covered him off here for that purpose, I presume. So Mas at 16 credits, again, at that price, you need to be a podium contender, and Enric Mas just isn't that, so he's not worth it in my eyes. 14 credits, you got Landa. I don't want to fall into the trap of thinking that Landa's going to be really good just because he was good in the Tour. I think that might be a little bit of a mistake. So his problem is that he doesn't have very good, like, the strongest team. He doesn't have a good time trial. At 14 credits, you need to be, like I said earlier, a top 5 candidate. Landa is that, but somebody pointed out to me he seems to do better when he is the domestique for somebody else, and he is the team leader here, and whenever that happens, it always goes wrong. And I think that Landa maybe at 14 credits, he was 8 in the Tour de France, and he got about 1,300 points. So at 14 credits, if he did exactly the same as he did in the Tour, which was a very good performance, he will only just about be worth it. So that's why I'm a little bit cautious of Landa. Carapaz, I mean, he's a good choice. He is going for GC. He will be the leader for EF Education, Easy Post, and therefore he is probably going to be a good pick. He will probably finish inside the top 10, and even if he doesn't, he's shown that he's very good at going and getting stages. So Carapaz is nice and safe. Del Toro, oh boy, Isaac Del Toro, the Neo Pro, who is doing his first Grand Tour at the Vuelta a España. He's 20 years old, and he's won the Tour de l'Avenir the year before. Does that ring a bell to anybody else? Because 5 years ago, that was the exact scenario that Tadej Pogačar was in when he first did the Vuelta a España, and he won 3 stages and finished in 3rd in GC. Can Del Toro repeat the incredible feat of Tadej Pogačar? It looks like it might be, because he is in incredible form. The downside, and I will say this, he's not in exactly the same scenario. Pogačar was sharing leadership in that race with a declining in form Fabio Aru, who was towards the end of his career. Del Toro is up against Almeida and Yates and McNulty and Soler and lots of other great riders in the UAE Team Emirates team. So it's not the exact same scenario, but Del Toro does have a definite comparison to Pogačar from 5 years ago. And he is the most exciting rider in this race, let's face it. Ita Brooks at 12 credits. I mean, he will probably be working for Kuss. And to be honest, I just think that at 12 credits, I'm not sure if Ita Brooks is worth it. He was, ill during the Giro, but he just hasn't had a very good year. I don't know why, but Ita Brooks doesn't have that great TT to rely upon. I don't think I can wholly recommend Ita Brooks for this race. And then off into the 10 credit riders, you got Ciccone, who, if he actually hunts stages and then accidentally ends up in top 15 GC, will be worth it. But if he does what he did in the Tour again and tries to go for GC, I just don't think it's going to be worth it again. I think that it's just a chaotic race, and Ciccone would be so better going in the breakaway. So hopefully he does that, and then he'll be worth it. You got Gal and O'Connor. Gal is going for stages. O'Connor's going for GC. He's aiming for top 5. He is 10 credits here. He was 16 credits in the Giro. O'Connor could definitely be worth it. He was good during San Sebastian, and I think that he could finish top 10 in this race. And at 10 credits, that is pretty good value, to be honest. So I think O'Connor is a good choice. And I think he's looking to end on a high because he is leaving this team to go to Jayco Alula next year. Max Pool's good during Vuelta Burgos. He needs a shout out, obviously, because he's from Yorkshire. So Max Pool, honestly, could be top 10 of GC. Should be fighting for that white jersey, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I would say that O'Connor is a slightly safer option, though, personally. Van Eytvelt, again, a very exciting rider. Kind of like Del Toro, in that he is just this young gun, super talented, won the UE Tour, third in San Sebastian. He's had a lot of good results this year. Van Eytvelt, he did the Vuelta last year. He got a few top 10s, I think. And I think that he's ready to step up and really contest for GC now. 8 credit riders. The ones which I like are Lipovitz for a few stages. He's quite good on the steadier kind of 6% terrain. I like Riccatello. He was good during the Tour de Suisse. I like Rubio. He was 7th in the Giro d'Italia, but they've also got Enric Mas here, so I'm not sure what his role is, really. Sivakov was very good during San Sebastian, and obviously he's a part of a just insane UAE Team Emirates team, so I expect to see him in the break. And Woods is very good on steep terrain, so those are my favourite ones. I would avoid Gaudu, Martin, Valentin Palapentra. Yes, he was good during the Giro, but he hasn't been that good since then. And Quintana, I can't recommend Quintana. He hasn't looked very good this year. But all the other ones, honestly, are pretty good. They're all like breakaway riders, I guess. Maybe Riccatello and Rubio are the more GC orientated riders from that selection. And then the 6 credits, you got Fortunato, great pick. He was worth it during the Giro when he was 6 credits, and I'm sure he'll be worth it again here because he was 2nd in the Vuelta Burgos mountaintop finish. He just lost loads of time in the TT because he sucks at time trialling. Chris Harper, very good rider. He's had some good results this year, although some DNFs and some crashes have really hampered his progress here. Jesus Herrada won a stage last year. Maybe he can do the same. Dylan Turns, he's moving to Cofidis next year, but he is still a good choice. And I like Valter. He was 4th during the Olympic road race. If he gets some freedom from Vismale's bike, he'll be really good. And Filippo Zana was just outside the top 10 at the Giro d'Italia, so therefore I think that he's also a good one. So some good ones to be picking there. The sprinter category, the best guy is Wout van Aert, hands down. If you're not picking Wout van Aert, I do think you are sort of handicapping your team. I think his selection, like he could be 22 credits or something, and I think he'd still get selected quite a lot because he can do both the TTs really well. He can contest the, 2 or 3 sprints that there are, but he can also just get over lots of climbs and contest breakaways. So Wout's absolutely worth it. Groves is the kind of fastest sprinter, I guess, like on paper, alongside Wout. But at 12 credits, there's just not any chance in hell that Groves can be worth it. There just isn't. He's going to have to somehow win 5 stages, and there just aren't 5 sprint stages for him to win. Bittner is going to need to win 3 stages to be worth it. And again, there's only 3 sprints. So Bittner's going to have to do an absolute worldy performance here to be worthwhile. But he is he's a man on the rise. He's a young, talented sprinter. He's had some decent results recently. Won 2 stages at the recent Vuelta Burgos, so he's looking really good. Corbin strong, very versatile, probably the more versatile of these 3 8-credit brackets riders. He's had some good results this year, but again, the problem with these sprinters is that there's just not a lot of opportunity for them to get points, and obviously George has priced a lot of them at 6 credits to try and give us some way of really saving some budget here. You got Affini, who could do well in the TTs as well, so that's a slight edge. Adria is more of like a puncher, so I'd say that he could get in the breaks. Canal, again, very versatile, did good in stages in like the Tour de Wallonie, so more punchy style sprinter, so Canal could definitely contest some different stages. Paul Mikel has had some good punchy results this year in I think it's like Tour of Oman or something, so I think that Paul Mikel's very good. But honestly, if you're not going to pick Wout van Aert, I'm telling you right now, you need to pick Matthias Vacek, because he is probably going to be sprinting for Lidl Trek, but he's also in incredible form. He was just outside the top 10 in the Olympic road race. He's climbing pretty well. He could get in breakaways, but he's also a very good time trialist. He could be top 10 in both the TTs. So if you're not going to pick Wout van Aert, pick Matthias Vacek. That's my advice for you. And then lastly, into the unclassified riders, you've of course got Jonathan Navarez, who is super expensive because of how good he was during the Giro d'Italia, but he was also top 10 in the San Sebastian Classic, which was a really good performance considering that terrain wasn't too suited towards Navarez. He's climbing really well, but to be worth it, he's going to need to basically repeat his incredible feat from the Giro d'Italia, and I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think that it is very possible that it can happen, but he's just going to need to, get him a break an awful lot, and he will probably contest the sprints for Ineos and any sort of punchy finishes. So Navarez, I think, is a good choice if you can, afford the 10 credits, which I think you can. 8 credit riders, you've got Conrad, Lefay, Lazcano, Pelayo Sanchez, Maros Schmid, Josh Tarling, and Van Zevenont. Josh Tarling gives you the safest points because he'll probably win the 2 time trials. So he'll probably get you about 500 points, which isn't crazy good, but it is almost guaranteed points. Outside of him, I like Schmid, Pelayo Sanchez, and Lazcano the best. Schmid has been in very good form. He's a good puncher, and I think he'll get involved in quite a lot of those rolly terrain kind of stages. There's quite a few of them, so I reckon there's about 5 or 6 stages Schmid that could win. Very similarly, Sanchez is almost exactly the same type of rider, puncher, a fast kick at the end. He beat Alaphilippe in that Giro stage, the gravel stage, so he's very good. He's climbing very well. And Lazcano, if he can pull off what he did in the Dauphiné, he'll be very much worth it. So we'll have to wait and see. He was very active during the Tour, so that's why he deserves a bit of a shout out, because he gets involved just all over the shop. 6 credit riders. You've got Aliotti, who won the Tour of Slovenia this year, but he'll probably just be a domestique, so watch out for that. Honestly, I think George Bennett could be the best rider in this bracket because he has had some very good results this year. Very consistent GC performances. He could be top 15 GC in this race, and for a 6 credit unclassified rider, I think that's really, really good. So George Bennett, for me, I think is one who you need to be strongly considering putting on your team. Clément Berthet has had some very good climbing performances this year, but they've all been in one-day races, really. So we'll have to wait and see if he can translate that into a Grand Tour performance. But I think that Berthet is a good choice, but he may also get chained to O'Connor or Gal or whoever, so maybe that's a slight drawback of him, whereas George Bennett should have almost complete autonomy within the team to do whatever he wants. Campenaerts, the stage winner from the Tour de France, could do a top 10 in both the TTs and then get involved in just some rolly terrain, so Campenaerts is good. Castillo, he's had some strong results. He was top 20 in San Sebastian. He was top 10 GC in the Vuelta Burgos. I think Castillo's really good. Obviously, he's on a pro Conti team, and maybe they don't do as well, but Castillo has been really punching above his weight, so he's well worthwhile thinking about. Engelhardt could sprint for Jake Walula, actually. Unless they go for Schmid, I think that Engelhardt would be the one who's sprinting, so maybe he can get some top 10s in the sprints. But he's more of a puncher, so maybe he could get involved elsewhere, so that's definitely worthwhile thinking about, where he could definitely just get some top 10s in those sprints and get some easier, more guaranteed points for you. Quentin Herman's great puncher for Alpecin de Koenig. He should get involved in lots of breakaways. Andreas Klon was like the best 6 credit rider last year in this race. He won a stage, finished like top 5 or top 10 another like 4 times. So Klon, no, he hasn't been great this year, but he didn't look great last year before the Vuelta, and he did fine there, so maybe he can just do the exact same again. Kung, good for the TTs, but maybe not too much else, so maybe you want to go with somebody who's a bit of a better climber to try and get involved in these breakaways a lot. Pascher is one of those, great puncher, but can climb really well. You know, he's got involved in some, he'll get involved in a lot of the punchy finishes, might even try sprinting for Groupama, so Pascher I really like. Brandon Rivera-Smith, very good performances this year. Quite silently sneaking in the top 20 of GC. He was good in Vuelta Burgos, who is clearly peaking for this race. The only downside of him I see is that he's very similar to Jonathan Navarez, so Ineos would likely go with Navarez rather than him in a lot of scenarios, but maybe he can get his own opportunities. Remy Rojas, great puncher as well. Kind of similar to Pascher. But a little bit lighter and a little bit more of a pure climber, so could get involved more in the mountainous terrain. And I see those two really being the main protagonists in the break for Groupama FDJ. Rota, another good puncher, so definitely worthwhile looking out for Intermarché. Tejada, I really like as well. He was good during the Tour, quite active, very active during. What was it? I think it was the Paris-Nice. He was very active as well. In the Dauphiné, he was good too. So I mean, the Tejada is really good. I think that he could honestly get some very strong results in this race, some top 10s for sure. Torstein Tlen won a stage of the Tour de Suisse, which was really great to see. And if he's not just tied to Barry all the time, he should definitely be able to get in the breaks quite a bit. And then into the 4 credit brackets, there's not a lot to be shouting about. Urko Barad finished 4th in GC in Vuelta Burgos, so that's quite a good pickup for you guys to be going for. Ruben Fernandez, in years gone by, was very good. Maybe he can roll back the clock and get some of those results. Antoine Hubie, good puncher, so maybe he gets involved in some of the sprints or the slight uphill sprints. That's certainly possible. Iribar, a good climber for Equipo Kern Pharma as well. Keplinger's a decent time trialist for Bahrain, so maybe he could get involved. Lastra, a good puncher, actually. I think that he is. No, he's not the fastest finisher. They've recently added Coquard, so I forget everything I said about him. Lebert gets in the breakaway all the time. So if you want somebody just to get in the break, go with him. Milhelevic is a decent time trialist. Jose Felix Parra has good. He was alright during the Volta Portugal and some of the one-day races before then. And, what was it? The Alpes Isère Tour. He was top 3. So he's another good climber as well to be thinking about. Sutterling could do okay in the TTs. Vergalito's a decent climber for Alpecin as well. So that's kind of your lot. I would favour going with Lebert just for the breakaways, or probably going with Urko Barad just because he looked really good strong recently. This is my team at the moment. We've got Almeida, Skelmos, Van Eytveld and Del Toro as the real big GC contingency, I guess, in all that. We've got breakaway riders in Tejada, Pascher, Bennett, McNulty, and then we've got Wout van Aert just covering all bases. So let me know what you're thinking, and what do you make of my team? Put your team in the comment section down below, and if you are new around here, of course, click the subscribe button. There will be more Velogames videos coming over the next couple of days before the Vuelta, so be sure to stick around, maybe ding that notification bell if that's even still a thing, just so you know when these videos are coming out. But all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!